जय जय प्रभु विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर शत श्री श्रीमद हिज डिवाइन ग्रेस भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी श्रील प्रभुपाद की नित्य लीला प्रविष्ट जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर शत श्री श्रीमद हिज डिवाइन ग्रेस भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोस्वामी महाराज प्रभुपाद की अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की नामाचार्य श्रील हरिदास ठाकुर की प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवास आदि गौर भक्त वृंद की श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरि गोवर्धन की श्री मथुरा वृंदावन धाम की श्री मायापुर नवद्वीप धाम की पुरुषोत्तम क्षेत्र जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की श्री श्री कृष्ण बलराम की श्री श्री कृष्ण बलराम की श्री श्री कृष्ण बलराम की देयर मोस्ट मर्सीफुल लॉर्डशिप श्री श्री राधा श्याम सुंदर की देयर मोस्ट ब्यूटीफुल लॉर्डशिप श्री श्री राधा माधव की गंगामाई जमुनामाई की भक्ति देवी तुलसी महारानी की निताय गौर हरि प्रेमानंदे all glories to assembled devotees all glories to assembled devotees all glories to Shri Guru Shri Gauranga Prabhupada ki jai
Namaste Narasimhaya Praladadayine Hiranyakashipurvakshaha Shilatankanakalaye Ito Narasimha Parato Narasimha Yato Yato Yamitato Narasimha Bahir Narasimha Hridaye Narasimha Narasimha Madim Sharanam Prapade Narasimha Madim Tavakara Kamalavare Naka Madbhuta Shringa Adalita Hiranyakashipu Tanumringa Keshavadita Narahari Rupa Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare Tavakara Kamalavare Naka Madbhuta Shringa Adalita Hiranyakashipu Tanumringa Keshavadrita Narahari Rupa Jai Jagadisha Hare. Jai Jagadisha Hare. Jaya Narsinghadev, Jaya Narsinghadev, Jaya Narsinghadev, Jaya Narsinghadev, Jaya. Jaya Prahlad Maharaj, Jaya Prahlad Maharaj, Jaya Prahlad Maharaj, Jaya Prahlad Maharaj. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol. Shri Shri Narsinghadev Bhagwan ki jai. Shri Shri Bhakta Prahlad Maharaj ki jai. Gaur Premanande.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So happy to see all of you and get your association on this wonderful Balaram Purnima, Balaram Jayanti day. Say big Hari Bol. So this is a very auspicious day, very, very special for us who are serious in our practice of Krishna consciousness, because we need a lot of spiritual strength, and Balaram is the source of that. And so wonderful, this year, this happens to be most probably by their mercy, this is probably the last time we are gathering here for Balaram Jayanti. Hopefully, by Lord Balaram's mercy, we should be able to install their lordships in the new building in the very near future. And so I'm so happy that we have this many devotees here today. We are celebrating it together, and this is really a wonderful occasion. So today, the class is given by Her Grace Arudha Devidasi Mataji. Please welcome Arudha Mataji. Is she here? I'll just give a very brief bio. Arudha Mataji and her husband Antarupa Das Prabhu, they began practicing Krishna consciousness in the 1980s. I just remembered that was the year when I came to this country, but I did not meet them at that time. But Nirandara Prabhu knew them from Los Angeles at that time itself. So that tells you how many years they have been very active in their Krishna consciousness. They started ISKCON Temple in Boise, USA in 1986, and a small weekly program in their home. Now, 30 years later, there is a beautiful temple there, Sri Sri Radha Banki Bihari, that is the presiding deities, along with so many other services for that community. Other than, just like what we do here, they have so many different branches of preaching over there. There's a group of devotees who are running that temple successfully. And there is also a Govinda's restaurant. And while doing all those things, they homeschooled their two sons. Almost everyone knows who their sons are. Gopal Hari Prabhu, we are so very fortunate to have him with us. But even when they were very small children, almost everybody in ISKCON knew about them, particularly in relationship with their mother, Arudha Mataji's teaching of their children. She was teaching everything based on Srimad Bhagavatam. Now, since she has retired from actively serving in the temple itself, but her preaching is continuing. She has been traveling around the world, doing seminars on Krishna conscious parenting, as well as workshops on how to teach Srimad Bhagavatam to children. She has also authored a book called Homeschooling Krishna's Children, and she has compiled a study guide for Srimad Bhagavatam for children. So we are so very grateful that Aruda Mataji and Gopal Hari Prabhu and Devi Murthy and the children are here with us, and I just warmly welcome Aruda Mataji for today's class. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Can we get this mic moved over there? We're near the chair.
Please come closer. I'm a vegetarian, I promise you. So nice to see everybody for this auspicious occasion. On behalf of this beautiful temple, the ISKCON of Greater Chicago, Naperville, I welcome all of you for this very, very auspicious Balaram Purnima today. And I'm going to speak a few words on Lord Balaram. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Agyantimrandasya Gyananjana Shilakaya Chakshuranmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurve Namaha. Vanchakalpatarubhischa kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. So because I have a bad throat, please bear with me today. As you know, this material body is very unpredictable sometimes. Right? So today we are celebrating, like I said, the appearance day of Lord Balram. And why we have to understand is very important. Why we are trying to understand the mercy that he's showing us and how we can get that mercy is very, very important. Because without that, we cannot get the seed of bhakti. Impossible. Right? But before we get into this Balram Tattva, let us just talk a little bit about how Lord Balram appeared. In other words, the story behind the appearance of Lord Balaram. And this was this fateful evening, when Devaki, the mother of Lord Krishna, and Vasudeva, they were married. And as is the Vedic custom, when girls get married, they go to the boy's house. When they go to the boy's house, they're feeling great separation from their parents. And for everybody, they are familiar for them. And so the brother goes with her to her husband's house. And here we see how Kansa, who's the brother of Devaki, he's driving the chariot of his sister. Now you have to understand who Kansa was. He was this evil, evil king, But he was very powerful. Now, for such a powerful king to drive the chariot was a very menial task. But definitely he had so much love for his sister that he was a charioteer. He was driving his sister himself to take her to her new home. And as he's driving with great affection, and suddenly there's a voice in the sky. And this voice, all of you are familiar with this story, right? And the voice says, "Oh, Kansa, you fool! You're driving the chariot of your sister, but do you know that the 8th child of your sister will be your killer? Is actually going to kill you?" And as soon as Kansa heard that, his whole mood changed totally from affection, and he took out his sword and he was ready to slash her throat. He actually, with his left hand, he picks up her hair, holds it, and he's ready to cut off her throat. Now just imagine, somebody who's just shown so much affection, he's suddenly changed, right? So this is the nature, Prabhupada writes in the purport, how this is the nature of somebody who cannot control his senses. Anybody in this material world who cannot control his senses, you cannot depend on that person. He can be very nice, but he can turn around and just become just the opposite. You can't really depend, right? So within a minute, just to protect this dying body, because of his sense gratification, because he could not see beyond what's good, what's enjoyable for him, he was ready to kill Devaki. And of course, we know the story how Vasudeva tried to preach to him, tried to explain to him so many, in so many philosophical ways. But Kansa, when you're that envious and you're that uncontrollable, we see how in the story of Prahlad and Hiranyakashipu totally, he could not control his senses. Right? Within a moment, he was ready to kill his noble son. Within a moment, he was ready to kill him. While Prahlad tolerated all his austerities and he was his well-wisher. In the end, he asked to the Lord to liberate him. But Hiranyakashipu had no self-control. So you can depend on somebody who cannot control his senses. So the whole process of Krishna consciousness, we're trying just to get to that point. And so when and then at that time, of course, Vasudeva tried his best. But he was, very cunning. He could not listen to philosophy, but he could listen to negotiation. So as soon as Vasudeva started negotiating with him, he was fine. And what did he negotiate? Okay, Kansa, you just don't kill your sister. I will give every child that's born, I'll bring him or her to you, and you can do whatever you want to. And Vasudeva, because he was such a man of honor, that Kansa trusted him and believed him. And Prabhupada writes how, such men of honor, very difficult to find in Kali Yuga, very difficult now. In Kali Yuga, all the legs of religiosity is finished, right? The only thing that's remaining is truthfulness. And this is all about truthfulness, right? When keeping your word, a vow, is being truthful, right? To the vow that we keep, right? And that also is diminishing. And we see that we struggle so much, right? We struggle so much. We see that how, even when we take the vows from our spiritual master, we're struggling to maintain the vow, right? How long does it take for us to think, oh, well, I don't need to follow it so strictly. It's okay, right? But keeping vows is so very important, because it shows character. We can maintain that one leg that's remaining in Kali Yuga. So Vasudeva, he brought his first child to Kansa, and Kansa was very actually moved, and we could see that goodness in him, coming out at that time. And he said, Vasudeva, it's okay. it was predicted that the eighth child will kill me, so you can take this child back. And as Vasudeva was walking back to his house, okay, he was thinking, I don't think I can trust Kansa. He was very intelligent. He was a very high, very pure devotee, but also he was a politician. Right? He was, he was in the kingdom, helping Ugrasena at that time. So he knew exactly. He knew diplomacy. He knew you cannot trust such a person. And lo and behold, very quickly, he changed his mind. He was in some bad association, and he put Devaki and Vasudeva in jail, and he killed a series of 6 children of Devaki and Vasudeva. Imagine a mother losing and father losing their 6 children. Now why, Devaki and Vasudeva, the question is, Devaki and Vasudeva knew that Kansa is going to kill. Why did they go through? Why were they having children every year, right? It's because they knew Krishna was coming. Such is the sacrifice of a pure devotee. He's willing to have his children killed one after another just to see Krishna, just to please Krishna. Krishna decided to appear from Devaki's womb. So this was Krishna's plan. Right? So in this way we see how finally the 6 children were killed, right? So now the 7th child was this Lord Balram, who appeared within the womb of Devaki. And Devaki is looking very effulgent. If you see pictures in the Srimad Bhagavatam book, Devaki is looking beautiful, effulgent. Why? Because divinity is in a womb. Kansa is really afraid. He's thinking, what's happening? But before anything happens, Krishna calls Yogamaya, his internal potency, and directs her. He says, you take this, my dear Balaram, and my expansion, Balaram, and you transfer her to the womb of Rohini. Okay? So from the womb of Devaki, his mother, Krishna's mother, to the womb of Rohini, who was Rohini. Who was Rohini? She was another wife of Vasudeva. So Vasudeva was a Kshatriya, and he had many, many wives. And 2 of these are Devaki and Rohini. Now, why Rohini? Because at this time when Kansa was, started his atrocities, put Devaki and Vasudeva in the jail, then at that time, Vasudeva instructed Rohini to go to Vrindavan and stay under the shelter of Nand Maharaj and Yashoda. They were very, very dear to each other. So in this way, Rohini goes to stay in Vrindavan. And she's so fortunate because she gets to see all the leelas of Krishna with Devaki missed, right? Devaki was in jail. So she missed all the childhood pastimes of Krishna. But Rohini and Yashoda, they were able to witness those pastimes. So Rohini spent many, many wonderful years in Vrindavan. And she gave birth to Balaram. So this is the appearance of Lord Balram. Now a little bit about Balaram Tattva. Who is Balaram? Balaram is none other, actually there's no difference. Prabhupada used to say, Krishna is black Krishna and Balaram is white Krishna. Okay. There's actually no difference between Krishna and Balaram. So Krishna, why does he appear in the first place? It's because Krishna, when he wants to enjoy, Krishna is the first one that is existing before anything exists. So naturally he wants to enjoy. So he expands into Balaram. That's the first expansion is Balram. And then Balaram expands into this Chaturvyuha, they say. Anirudh, Pradyumna, Sankarshan and Vasudeva. So Vasudeva we know is Krishna, right? And then we have Pradyumna. Now I remember Romapad Swami in one of his classes was explaining about Pradyumna, how he's the transcendental Cupid. So nicely he explained. He's the transcendental Cupid, whereas in the material world we have the material Cupid, which is a demigod, Cupid, right? But here's Pradyumna, the transcendental Cupid, you know, and Shankarshan is Lord Balram. So he expands into this Chaturvyuha, and then then that expands. Then Balram expands into Narayan as Lord Narayan, and then Narayan again expands into another set of Chaturvyuha. Okay, again Sankarshan, Pradyumna, Anirudh, and Vasudeva. And Sankarshan then expands into Adi Shankar, which is the original Shiva. This I thought was, I was learning myself, so this I thought was very, very interesting, because we can see why Lord Shiva is the perfect Vaishnava, is the highest Vaishnava. That's why we don't categorize him as a demigod. He's not exactly a Jiva, and he's not exactly a Vishnu Tattva. Right? So Lord Shiva, so Adi Shankar is Lord Shiva, the original Lord Shiva, and then Shankarshan then expands, the original Shankarshan, he expands into these 4 Purushas, and that's the Mahavishnu. So you can see how Balaram, he is at the root of everything. He doesn't leave anything, right, separate, nothing. Everything is taken care of by Balram. So in order to help Krishna in the material creation, the Leela of material creation, he expands into Shankarshan, which is Lord Balaram. He expands into Mahavishnu, and we know who Mahavishnu is. Mahavishnu is the Vishnu from whose pores these bubbles are coming out, which are the individual universes that are coming out. And then these individual, then he enters, Mahavishnu expands into Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, which enters into each universe. You know, from the navel of whom Brahma, the lotus comes and Brahma is sitting. That's Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, and that Vishnu is coming into every universe individually. And then Garbhodakshaya Vishnu expands into Shirodakshaya Vishnu, which is the super soul within the heart of every living entity. Okay. So in this way, and now Shirodakshaya Vishnu is the source of all incarnations. So that means Lord Balram is the source of all incarnations. He is the source of every incarnation that's coming out. The Matsya, Varahadev, everything, Lord Ram, every incarnation is coming from Lord Balaram. So we can see how Lord Balaram is such a powerful personality. Yet the key thing is, what is his mood, right? What is his mood? His mood is that of service. We can see that. Now the one rare thing about Lord Balram is that he is involved in all of the 5 rasas, the primary rasas. We all know about that, right? You know, we can have relationship with Krishna in 5 different ways. Okay, we can have relationship with Krishna as in Shantaras, in Dasya, in Sakhya, Vatsalya, and Madhurya. Now, what is Santaras? Now, Balram also, is involved in the Santaras, has a relationship with Krishna in Santaras. And what is that? How is that? Anybody has an answer for that? Yes. Yes. Yes, very good. Yeah, the first thing that he expands into is Golok Vrindavan. So in other words, the spiritual planet is an expansion of Lord Balram. So everything is happening under his jurisdiction. And then, of course, like you said, he expands into different paraphernalia. Now he expands as a crown of Krishna, right, as a flute, everything. Crown, flute, bed, as Shesha. Or, Lord Balram is Mridanga. So every paraphernalia that you see, that is Lord Balram's expansion. And why? Because see, Krishna plays the flute. Krishna plays the flute. And Lord Balram has a plow. Right? So he's attracting all these souls to l- for them to go and participate in Krishna's flute playing. Okay. So in other words, why is he expanding into all this paraphernalia? Because he wants to attract all of us to the flute playing of Krishna. That's why Balram is called the original guru, because he's constantly helping us to be attracted to Krishna. Now, Krishna has a flute, Lord Balram has a plow. So Krishna is attracting, and what is the plow doing? Why is Lord Balram having a plow? Right? Why not something else? What is a plow meant for? It's meant for digging. It's digging dirt, right? So when we dig dirt, then the soil becomes nice and moist, and some seed, you plant a seed and it will grow. So our hearts are really hard right now, right? So Lord Balram, what is his function? He plows it. He digs all the dirt for the seed of bhakti to grow. Because without that plowing, without that clearing, and what is this plowing? The clearing of all our anarthas, lust, anger, greed, anger, all these things that is within our hearts. So when we get the mercy of Lord Balram, he removes that through this plowing, by removing all this dirt, right? And another thing that the plow is doing is that it's removing all the obstacles that come in the path of bhakti. He removes that. Very important, isn't it? So this is Lord Balram. He's helping us in this endeavor, in attracting us to all this by becoming the paraphernalia of Krishna. He's attracting our hearts. And now Dasya Ras, Lord Balram's mood. Okay, Krishna is the enjoyer, and what is he? He assists in the enjoyment. That's why Lord Balram is called the Supreme Personality of Servitor Godhead. He's still the Supreme Personality of Godhead, nothing less than that, but he's called Servitor Godhead. Why? Because he wants to assist Krishna and serve him, and he wants to include all of us in that service. So we are all assistants of Lord Balram. So that's why he's called Adi Guru. In other words, he's the original Guru. And so as the original Guru, he's giving us guidance and ways by which we can do that. And of course, that is given through our spiritual master, who is a representative of Lord Balram. So the whole idea of Lord Balram's appearance day is to actually, the whole message is to take shelter of our spiritual master. This is the whole message. Is how when we take shelter of the spiritual master, our spiritual master, he plows our heart and gets rid of all the anarthas and also removes all the obstacles in the path of devotional service. And then, of course, we have Sakhya Ras. So Lord Balram, as we know, he's involved in cow herding with Krishna. He wrestles, he plays, he fights, he teases Krishna, right? So we get plenty of those pastimes in Vrindavan Leela. So all that is there. So he has great fun. And then, of course, we have Vatsalya. Now, as older brother, he's in the mood of Vatsalya, right? In the Vedic culture, an older brother is like a parent, right? Like a parent who pretty much kind of gives some guidance. Do this or do that. It's like an older brother, right? So his older brother is Balaram. So he gives guidance, and and more about that is coming up, you know. And then Madhurya. Now one would think, what would Balaram do in Madhurya, right? That's between Radha and Krishna. But no, Balaram, because it is odd for him to involve himself in the pastimes of Radha and Krishna. It is odd for an older brother to be involved in the younger brother's romantic pastimes. It's very, very odd and embarrassing. So Balaram cannot do that, right? And Radharani is a bit afraid of him too. And he's afraid of Radharani because he knows the relationship of Radha and Krishna are very close. So what does he do? Anybody has an answer? Anang Manjari. Thank you, Prabhu. So he becomes Anang Manjari, Radharani's younger sister. Now among all the Sakhis and everyone that Radharani has, Anang Manjari is the most intimate. She's younger sister. She's living with Radharani. She's not coming to see her every day. She's living there. So you can imagine how close Radharani is to Ananga Manjari. Right? And in this way, she assists in the pastimes of Radha and Krishna. So whenever there's a plan for a rendezvous, meeting together of Radha and Krishna, she helps in that process. So this way, there's no place where Lord Balaram doesn't take, he is not intimately assisting Lord Krishna. But Lord Krishna is not so easy to approach, but Lord Balram is, very much. So that is why he's known as Adi Guru, because we can approach him. So we see that how Lord Balram, some sweet little pastimes with some deeper meanings in that will help us understand the mood of Lord Balram. The mood of Lord Balram. As we know, Lord Balram in Ram Leela, he's Lakshman, right? And his service mood. What is his mood? Is serving mood. And this is what it means for us. To adopt his mood means to adopt the serving mentality. And so Lakshman, as a younger brother of Lord Ram, as you know, he took a vow from when he was very small that he would never leave the side of Lord Ram. His whole life was dedicated to serving Lord Ram all the time. So there's a kind of a little amusing story where when Sita Devi, she got married and she came to be with Lord Ram in Ayodhya, then she had a little predicament. And it was that she had taken a vow when she saw Lord Ram that she was going to serve him 24/7, serve him and take care of everything, and she had dedicated herself to the service of Lord Ram. But when she comes there, she realized that actually there's no service for her. And she wanted some confidential time with Lord Ram, in the palace. But she could not do that because Lakshman was right there. He was right there. Before Ram could know what he needs, Lakshman knew what Lord Ram needs, and he was right there. She had no service, and she's thinking, "What is this? What am I? Why? I took a vow. I'm the wife of Lord Ram." And so she complained to Lord Ram and said, "You should talk to Lakshman about this, and maybe he can go away somewhere or something." And so Lord Ram said, "No, if I tell Lakshman, he's going to feel bad. And if I tell, so I can't tell him. And if I tell you that it's okay, you're going to feel offended. So this is a big problem. So let's go to our guru, Vashishta Muni. We'll go to him." And so everybody, all three of them went to Vashishta Muni. And as you know, guru doesn't have an easy job, believe me. You ask any guru, he doesn't have an easy job. He does things nobody else wants to do, right? So they both go, they all three go, and then Vashishta Muni, he listened to Ram, said, "Okay, all of you put your, presentations, whatever you have." And they put their, problems. And Vashishta Muni said, "Okay, when Lord Ram is in the palace, Sita Devi is in charge, when he's in his private quarters. And when he's outside, in the assembly hall, state hall, and all these things, then who's in charge? Lakshman is in charge." Sita Devi is happy. But guess what? Was Lakshman happy? No. But don't get this thing wrong. Lakshman adored Sita Devi. She was the goddess of fortune. He was his mother. In fact, when he was willing to do anything for her, right? And so as Lakshman, he sometimes had to do tasks that he didn't like. Really, he didn't appreciate, right? For example, when they did Agni Pariksha for Sita Devi, he had to do that task. Okay, when Sita Devi came, she flew from Lanka to Rameshwaram, and then time came to see Lord Ram. Lord Ram suddenly said, "Oh, I can't take her. She's been in another man's house. I can't take her." And Sita Devi was apparently very disturbed and very shocked. She had been waiting 1 year to see her Lord Ram, right? And so Sita Devi told Lakshman, build a funeral pyre. And he's just looking, he's saying, how can you do it? And he's looking at Lord Ram and he's thinking, maybe he'll say something. Lord Ram said, do it. And then she lights it, and he says, light it. And then again he looks at Lord Ram, shocked, and says, okay. And finally she sits on it. And as you know the story, the wonderful story, that actually it was Maya Sita, right? The real Sita was with Agni Devi and she was chased, right? I know this is a very controversial topic, but that's not the point. The point is Lakshman's mood was so much of service to Lord Ram, so much of service. And then, of course, Sita Devi goes to Lord Ram. So in this way, again, so Lakshman had to do some things that he really didn't appreciate, right? That he didn't like, because it was not, as a younger brother, he had to obey everything, right? Same thing when Lord Ram banished Sita to go to the forest, because some washerman was complaining, right? At that time, he was the one who took Sita Devi. And while he was driving the chariot to go to Valmiki Rishi's ashram, he made a solemn vow. He says, this is just too painful. He was crying, taking Sita there, right? And he said, this is too much. This is too painful. In my next incarnation, I'm going to appear as the older brother. This is enough. I'm not going to be ordered around. I don't want to be the younger brother. So in his next incarnation, he becomes Lord Balram. So then he was the older brother. And what was the difference? He could do what he wanted to. And he did. And there's so many things that were, it was inconceivable why he had a soft corner for Duryodhana. Right? There's no reason for it. It's inconceivable. It was simply a plan of the Lord. But he thought, well, this is what I'm going to do. Nobody can tell me what to do. I'm the older brother of Krishna. So he befriends Duryodhana. He has affection for him. He's part of the family, and he taught him how to play the club. And so we see that, we see the whole story of Mahabharata, how so many times he sided with Duryodhana, right? In the marriage of Subhadra with Arjuna, also, he was against it. He wanted Subhadra, his sister, to get married to Duryodhana. And he was against that, right? There's a whole story of how, Arjuna becomes disguised as a renunciate, stays for 1 month in Dwarka. Nobody knew that he was Arjuna. And he met Subhadra, and he saw her, and they liked each other, and all those things were going on. And finally, Arjuna quietly, what happened? Was it a Swayamvar? No, he kidnapped Subhadra, right, while she was going to the temple. And he kidnapped her and took her away, right? And Balaram was very angry, very angry. He told Krishna, I'm going to kill Arjuna. He was willing to kill Arjuna. And guess what Krishna had to do? He had to beg Balaram, please don't do this. Nowhere will you find Krishna begging anybody, anywhere. Have you seen him begging anywhere? No. So such is the stature of Lord Balram. He begs his older brother to spare the life of Arjuna. So all these beautiful leelas are happening. And then there was one other leela. The Sambha leela. I really like that one. the marriage of Sambha to Lakshmana, Duryodhana's daughter, right? Sambha really fell in love with Duryodhana's daughter, and Duryodhan, and then when Duryodhan, her father, decided to do a swamvar for his daughter so that she could select her own groom, right? Her own husband, and she does that, and of course Sambha knew that during that ceremony, Lakshmana will not go for her because she didn't like him. She didn't care for him, right? She's going to pick somebody else. So what did he do? He goes there and he kidnaps her and takes her away. And in Vedic culture, as soon as you touch a woman, you're married, period, right? You can't marry anybody else. So now when the Kauravas find out, they get really, really angry, and they send all these Maharathis against Sambha, right? So there's 6 Maharathis fighting against one Sambha, and finally they capture him after a real good fight. They capture him, and they capture both of them, and they capture him and keep him in Hastinapur. They wouldn't let him go. And when Ugrasena in Dwarka, he heard about it, the Yadus, these powerful Yadus, they got really angry. Ugrasena said, what is this? We're going to send an army to defeat these Kauravas. What do they think they are? And everybody was getting geared up. Yes, we're going to send this army. And Balaram spoke up. He says, no. Don't do that. I'll go and negotiate. Because he was friends with Duryodhana, right? And so he went. And then he goes with all his people and everything, and they camp outside. And Duryodhana, when he hears that he's come, he sends out, he welcomes him. He took Uddhava also with him. Actually, so Lord Balram first sends Uddhava to find out the mood of Dhritarashtra. Just like Krishna sent Akrura to find out what's in the heart of Dhritarashtra, So and then of course when they heard that Balaram is there, everybody loved Balaram because Duryodhana liked him, right? So everybody liked him, and they welcome him and they worship him and do all that. Then Lord Balaram puts up the proposal. This is what Ugrasena is saying. These are what the Yadu's proposal. Accept it, otherwise. And as soon as they heard that, they were just like really angry because they had a lot of false ego, a lot of false pride, in them. And they said, no, we can't do that. And I want to read you some verses, really interesting, because you'll see then Lord Balaram's mood in this. This is the Canto 10, chapter 68, and a few verses here, starting from 24. And here the Kauravas are speaking. The Kuru noble said, "Oh, how amazing this is! The force of time is indeed insurmountable. A lowly shoe wants to climb on the head that bears the royal crown." So they are speaking about the Yadus like this. It is because these Vrishnis are bound to us by marital ties that we have granted them equality, allowing them to share our beds, seats, and meals. Indeed, it is we who have given them their royal thrones. Only because we looked the other way could they enjoy the pair of yak-tail fans and conch shell, white umbrella, throne, and royal bed. No longer should the Yadus be allowed to use these royal symbols, which now cause trouble for those who gave them, like milk fed to a poisonous snakes. So a few more verses, and then Lord Balaram speaks. So he can. Here we go. Lord Balram said, "Clearly the many passions of these scoundrels have made them so proud that they do not want peace. Then let them be pacified by physical punishment as animals are with a stick." Only gradually was I able to calm the furious Yadus and Lord Krishna, who was also enraged. Desiring peace for these Kauravas, I came here, but they are so dull-headed, fond of quarrel and mischievous by nature, that they have repeatedly disrespected me. Out of conceit, they dared to address me with harsh words. The same Krishna who occupies the Sudharma assembly hall and for his enjoyment took the Parijata tree from the immortal demigods, that very Krishna is indeed not fit to sit on a royal throne? The goddess of fortune herself, ruler of the entire universe, worships his feet, and the master of the goddess of fortune does not deserve the paraphernalia of a mortal king? So in this way, Lord Balram gets very angry. And as you know the pastime, what does he do? He takes his plow and he tears Hastinapur into different pieces, and he drags with his plow Hastinapur into the Ganga. Imagine the whole city moving. You're in the city and it's moving, you know. It feels impossible, but Lord Balaram's plow can do everything, you know. When he uses his plow, you can expect anything, right? So the Hastinapur is going into the Ganga, and yet Duryodhana gets really, really nervous. And then he starts, and he comes, and he begs for forgiveness and all that. And Lord Balaram forgives them. He actually forgives them. So in this way, we see Lord Balaram's mood, and he's such in a servitor mood that how he defends Krishna and the way he retaliates in that way. So Lord Balaram is very, very merciful, but also he can be very, very hard. Right? Now the next form, the last thing, is his mood as Lord Nityananda. As you know, Lord Balaram is none other than Lord Nityananda. So Lord Nityananda is not the real brother of Lord Chaitanya. He's actually the god uncle of Lord Chaitanya. In other words, Lord Nityananda, Lord Chaitanya's guru is Ishwar Puri, and his guru is Madhavendra Puri. And Lord Nityananda's guru is Madhavendra Puri. Okay. So he does become kind of a little senior god uncle, or whatever you want to say, of Lord Chaitanya. But so his real brother was actually Vishwarupa. But Lord Nityananda's mood was very, very. One thing that we can learn from Lord Balaram is in his mood of Lord Nityananda, because what he's teaching us that one can take any troubles, any chastisement, any type of difficulty to serve the Lord. One can take beatings, chastisement, everything to serve the Lord. This is the mood. Why? Because Lord Nityananda dealt with Jagai and Madai. They were the most sinful people, the biggest rascals, and yet he delivered them. And he was willing to take their beatings. He was soaked in blood. Blood was drenching. And Lord Nityananda was saying, please chant the holy name of the Lord. In other words, he understood the mission of Lord Chaitanya. He understood, this is what gives pleasure to my Lord, is that every person should get the holy name. Now, Lord Chaitanya took sannyas, right? So as a sannyasi, there were certain areas in the city that you could not go to. So who was Lord Chaitanya preaching to? Big sannyasis, right? Prakashanand Saraswati, Sarvabhaum Bhattacharya, big leaders, even big Muslims, Chand Kazi, because he was a sannyasi, that was the stature. But a sannyasi could not go on the streets and preach to the most downtrodden. So Lord Nityananda was an avadut. He actually didn't care about family or anything. As you see, his mood was of an avadut. But Krishna, Lord Chaitanya, asked him to get married. And that's why Lord Nityananda got married. So he could go, look at that mood. To serve the Lord, he's willing to do anything. And this is what we learn from Lord Balaram's appearance day. This kind of mood, this service mood. For the sake of for Lord's pleasure, we are willing to give anything, go through any difficulty. We can even give up our life. This is the mood, right? So he becomes so he becomes a grahastha, just so he could go on the streets and have to deal with such dangerous rascals as Jagai and Madai, who even hit him. So this is what we can learn from Lord Nityananda today, from Lord Balaram's appearance day. So I think it's time. 7:15 was the time when I was allotted. But I would like to take, if that's okay, I can take a few minutes for questions. If anybody has any realizations or questions, please feel free. I can try. Any realization? Yes. Yes.
Thank you for such a wonderful lecture and getting us in the mood and spirit of Lord Balram. And I was just wondering, when you said the last part where we should be ready to do anything to serve Lord Krishna, I want you to just clear my contradiction in my mind. So we hear that we should take care of the body first to serve the Lord. But I mean, I can tell you for myself, in the morning sometimes it's really hard to get up. And I try to have the mood that I'm doing this because it pleases Krishna and Guru. Because it's Guru's instruction to, chant in the Brahma Muhurat. Sometimes it's just impossible for me when it comes to, like maybe one day or 2 days a week. It gets really hard. So in that time, I I can't do the Brahma Muhurat. So what is important, I have the mood the days that I wake up and try to chant for pleasure of Guru and Krishna. But then I also hear you should take care of your body. So what is a proper way to think in those instances?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's two parts to that answer. I think, one is setting priorities, obviously chanting early in the morning is very, very important. So for that, we can try to make sure we go to bed early so that we are able to get up in the morning. Because even for children, Prabhupada gave many instructions for raising children. And he said children can play, they can eat as much as they want to, no restriction. But the only thing he said, they must get up in the morning. In Gurukula, these kids are getting up at 3:30 in the morning, right? And doing that. So this is very dear to Srila Prabhupada, the early morning. And we can see, obviously, it's important for us, right? So we can make adjustments and see where we can do things, where we can adjust things, where we are not so tired, and we can have enough rest, all those things. So, and there's another aspect to this answer is that, overall, Prabhupada himself said that, how he would write letters and he said, the first thing he would write, I hope you're keeping in good health, right? In good health. That was the first line in every letter that Prabhupada wrote. So health is very important, right? So from what I've understood, he mentions health, sadhana, and then your service. Health, sadhana, and service. So in other words, our health is important. If we don't take care of our health, how can we serve Krishna? So if you have health issues, you have to take care of that. You can't ignore that. Otherwise, that's not pleasing to Krishna. Okay. Prabhupada himself stressed it by asking every disciple how his health was.
Thank
I hope
you.
this helps.
Yes, thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Thank you so much for the beautiful narration on different pastimes of Lord Balram. I've heard Balramji helps us overcome weakness. We know that we should do bhakti, we know we should do sadhana, but we also have a weak heart and we don't have the strength to do it. And Balramji is the one who gives us that strength. So how do we please Balram so that we can get that strength? That's my question, Mataji.
Prabhu, wonderful question. The way we can please Lord Balram today is by pleasing our spiritual master. That's the way, because the spiritual master is the representative of Lord Balram. Our living spiritual master is the representative of Lord Balram. So when we please him, we automatically please Lord Balram. Because that's the mood he's setting. He's setting this mood. Everything for him is service to Krishna. He's taking charge of every aspect. Like a guru, he's guiding us, you know. Imagine the trouble that a guru goes through just to get a disciple through in Krishna consciousness. Right? So that would be my answer.
Mataji, in the same connection, I think you started the lecture with sometimes we take Guru's instruction as, you know, it's not so seriously, right? And then I feel that we do that because we don't have enough strength. So I was wondering, like, these become more like a circular thing. So I was hoping how, you know, without Balaram's mercy, we cannot have the strength to follow instructions of Guru. And so I was just thinking, how can we do that?
So in every way we have to do, you know, we get mercy in different ways. You know, mercy comes from in many ways. And so mercy is coming from, you know, remembering Lord Balaram today, mercy is coming from, you know, having good, serving other Vaishnavas, you know, chanting and serving and cooking. So mercy is coming in many ways, and we have to take advantage of all this. You know. So serving spiritual master includes service to others. Because that does please our spiritual master. It's not a narrow sectarian way. And Guru is one. It doesn't matter which Guru we have. Who is our Guru, it doesn't matter, right? Guru is one. So, and it pleases Guru too when we please others. Okay, thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Lord Balram ki jai.
Yeah, we'll go to the next part of the part of the program. We'll be having prasadam downstairs, and some kirtan will be happening upstairs also. Shri Balaram Ji Balaram Purnima Mahamotsav ki